Howdy ho, folks. Howdy ho. Howdy ho, America and points beyond. Who has power and what are they doing with it? Politics is not a natural act.
That's right.
That's right.
I must admit, I never heard that one from you, John.
There's so many feisty fighters against the greedheads and boneheads. So grab a libation, join the conversation. It's the personal side of politics, and it is surprisingly tasty. Taste of the Hightower Lowdown Chat Chew Happy Hour, which is what we're gathered here to do. And here's my libation. Let me just get it going here with the official popping at the top. There that goes, and here this goes. And you have got a Lone Pint Brew from Magnolia, Texas. Some of you might not know where Magnolia is, but it's right down there by Prairie View and Cut and Shoot. Y'all know where that is. So the juxtaposition of Cut and Shoot, Prairie View, and Magnolia. There you are. But here we are to share a happy hour with you, and I hope you will join with us. So grab your own libation, whatever choice you have on that, and join the conversation. Deanna Zant is with us as always. DZ, wave at the people, please. There she is. And she's awaiting your calls and your insights and your information that you might want to impart and questions that you might have for us tonight. So pull up a chair at our chat and chew table here and let's get it going. We've got a blockbuster for you tonight. A labor palooza is what we're offering here. We're going to, as we try to do on a regular basis, we try to take you into places you might not otherwise get into, you might not otherwise even know about, but are progressive fights that are going on, and meet people who are doing extraordinary work against even more extraordinary odds, and more often than not, winning. It teaches us how the economy is rigged, but more importantly, it teaches us what we might do about that. And I recently made a trip with Beto O'Rourke, former member of Congress from here in Texas, out in El Paso. He and I went over to East Texas, traveling to talk about the voter suppression legislation that our governor was pushing and our right-wing legislature was pushing at that time with great success. But thanks to a walkout by Democrats in the legislature, it forced them to not be able to pass that comprehensive, far right-wing repressive piece of voter suppression legislation. But of course, they're coming back into a special session to ram it down our throats. So we thought we would go out and particularly in areas that don't have a lot of politicians traveling through or informational types like us coming through to say, here's what's going on in the Capitol that you might want to know about and make a difference in. And so there we were. We went over to we were in Nacogdoches. We were up in Center, Texas. We were in Lufkin, Texas, and we started out in Beaumont, Texas. Beaumont's down in the far southeast corner of our state. It's right up against Louisiana. In fact, Louisiana claims it to be their own. And it is right near Lake Charles, so it's hurricane territory and et cetera, but it's also old-time Union territory, working people. That's what Beaumont, Port Arthur, Orange, Texas, these little cities are. And over there, an extraordinary fight was taking place that I didn't even know about. Nobody outside of that region of our country really knew it was even going on because the media paid zero attention to it. But it's a huge story. And the story is this. ExxonMobil, one of the 2 or 3 largest corporations in the entire planet, has locked out some 650 workers in a plant that has been there since 1933, been a union plant since 1933. And they've locked these workers out. So we're going to meet Miss Nikki and Everett. We're going to meet Pup, like puppy dog, Pup's with us. We're going to meet Rick, and we're going to talk to them about what all this means and what it means to us regular people who are not maybe union members and are maybe off in Nashville, Tennessee, or Portland, Oregon, or wherever they might be, but might begin to understand how these local battles are really global battles. So let's start with Nikki herself. This is Nikki and her husband Everett are both with us. They are both United Steelworker employees. They are United Steelworker members and Exxon employees. Nikki herself is a third generation Exxon worker. Nikki, how far back does it go? It goes to your father and even back to your grandfather?
It goes back to my father, to my grandfather. They started in Buffalo, New York at the Mobil facility and transferred down here to Southeast Texas, Beaumont, Texas. Yes, sir.
When Exxon took over Mobil, and that plant is now a huge facility, a profitable facility, but they have locked out these workers. And what Nikki and her husband Everett here are doing is extraordinary work. Where they are is in a facility that I walked through just a few weeks ago. This is the food pantry run by the United Steelworkers Union. It is a food pantry that is necessary for why, Nikki?
So right now, you've got 650 people who've been locked out by ExxonMobil here in the Beaumont facility area. These people basically don't have a normal income that they have coming through. So we've given them the opportunity to come through this pantry and shop once a week to at least get them enough supplies to feed their family at least 2 good meals through the week. I mean, they've got some odds and ends that they can go through here and get, but at least we know they'll get something on the table for that week.
And I went through this, and it is essentially a grocery store, a self-made grocery store by the workers themselves. And the important thing that I noticed there was that it's got the basics. If you need some hamburger meat, if you need some veggies, that's all there. But it's also got Oreo cookies. It's got some snacks because why not? And particularly, aren't the children of these families drastically affected by this?
So that's exactly why it's built like it is. You've got cereal, you've got the Oreos, you've got diapers, you've got Lunchables that we put in the refrigerator at one point. These children here in this community, they went through enough. They went through hurricanes. They went through storms. They went through power outages, you name it. They just went through COVID, the whole pandemic through the whole United States and through the country. Now they're going through where a global corporation has decided that 650 people aren't enough anymore to keep them working while trying to settle on a contract that these kids may not have the normal things that they have in life. So this pantry was built to design these kids to have some normalcy in their life.
And your own children help out, right? You've got, 6 children, is that correct?
Yeah, we have a total of 6, but we have 2 that are younger that are grade school age, and they actually come in here and call this the grocery store.
Right.
So they come through here, they've got their shoppers that come through the grocery store that they want to help pick items, tell them what items they can get, how much they can get. This has been their summer location. This has been where they've spent every day when they know that people are coming to shop the pantry. They're like, can we come to the pantry and help today? So just as I was grown and raised to be a union employee and help others, that's where they're at. They're out here helping others.
And that's what union means, right? I mean, we unite in times
Union means you stick together as a family and you help one another get through the hard times. That's right.
Bingo. And these are hard times for these folks. How long have they been locked out of their being locked out of the factory of the ExxonMobil?
May 31st was the day right then. So you're looking at, or May 1st. So you're looking at 2 months we're fixing to be locked out of that facility.
Right. That's 2 months without money. That is 2 months without much in the way of food and support and et cetera. And this is the community coming together, the labor community, the union community, and the larger community, because where does this food come from? How do you get the food into your pantry?
So the food comes in by donations. It comes in by donations from other unions throughout the world here in the U.S. It comes from donations from even local people in the community. You have local people who come in the community who drop off supplies. They drop off canned goods. They drop off just minimal donations of just whatever they have for the week and say, okay, I'll come back next week. So even the community here locally has tried to come together just to provide a little bit for the people here that a global corporation couldn't do.
This is a multi-billion-dollar global corporation. Let me
That
point
is
out.
correct. A
Buying
multi-billion-dollar corporation that just wants to have more control.
more control, indeed. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So let's continue to chip in on that, though. That this is not the workers in this plant in Beaumont, Texas, this ExxonMobil plant, are not seeking higher wages. That's not what they're asking for. They're, as I understand it, you're asking for job security and safety provisions.
Yeah, safety, security, and seniority. Those are the three main things.
Well, that must be hard for ExxonMobil to contemplate how that could be necessary for anybody. But you stretch a dollar pretty far. I mean, you've got your own 6 kids, so you probably know how to stretch a dollar. But you're having to do it for 650 families here.
So,
which are a couple thousand people, I presume, in that whole. So how do you do that? How do you make the most of what you have in the way of donations?
So we go out, we look at every local ad, we see where we can get our best bang for the buck. We look at coupons, we look at every option that we have that we can stretch every penny that we have down to the dollar.
And you're getting support from the local community too. Some local businesses and et cetera are chipping in.
Yes, so your local smaller businesses are definitely at least helping us. They're giving us items at wholesale cost. If that, they turn around, we purchase at wholesale, they'll even donate some. So we've had several here in the local community of your smaller homegrown businesses that have reached out to help support.
So when you hear about unions, this is what the union is. It is not just people sitting around a table trying to get another nickel an hour out of it. It's people who are teaming together to have a little bit of fairness, a little bit of justice out of our economy. And that's what this fight is all about. And that's the tremendous work that Nikki and Everett Hill and their kids are doing together with the people of the whole Beaumont, Port Arthur area. Was very rewarding for me to meet these folks and to go through this pantry and to go out on the line. Literally, we can take you on the line today to show you some of what it means. These people have been locked out. We're going to explain what that means in a moment, but they've been locked out of their jobs. And so they're on a picket line. And included in that picket line is a fat cat. That is the most wonderful balloon that I have ever seen. And this is Mr. Fat Cat holding a worker in one hand and a bag of money in the other hand. And that's me holding the worker's hand, standing there at the ExxonMobil factory right across from the picket line that they're marching on. And by the way, they're able to do that picket line only because the union owns a piece of property right across from that gate, and that allows them to put this facility together and to have this kind of a political, social, community effort going on. These are people coming together for themselves, but also for the larger cause, for the notion that we really are all in this together. My old Texas daddy, got to beware of Texans telling daddy stories. Nikki, you're from Buffalo, but I had a pretty good daddy, and he used to say, Jim, everybody does better when everybody does better. And that's what we're talking about here. Just the American way of we're all in this together. But sometimes the powers that be don't want us to be together. So they take shots. They take shots at
like
us.
the children. They want to treat us like children and be like we're not adults that need to make decisions. They want us
Right.
to be the children that they want to say need to be disciplined. That's not what this is
Yeah.
about.
And the worst thing that they want, that they fear, is that the workers themselves would have a voice, would make decisions. They want to make all the decisions. Let's bring in Pup Hodges, another United Steelworker member in this factory. Pup, how long have you worked with Exxon?
I've been there 15 years.
15 years. And you had a little experience with that. By the way, this is a good point to talk about this a little bit. ExxonMobil factory, ExxonMobil facility. What do they do there? What do they make?
Oh, they make gasoline, diesel. They do all kinds of. We work around chemical. Yeah, oil and gas. We produce, and even in our blending and packaging, we put in a lot of Mobil 1 that you put in your car for oil is probably packaged right here in Beaumont, Texas. So
that can be pretty nasty stuff and a pretty nasty process, a dangerous process.
It is very dangerous. I mean, we work around a lot of high pressure, a lot of chemicals that will kill you over time, just being around it. And that's why we have certain safety things in place. And that's why we fight for what we have, is because not just anybody off the street can come do what we do. We're trained to do what we do.
And did you get those that training, and did you get those procedures through the largesse and generosity of ExxonMobil?
Yes, sir, we did. I'll get in those hip pockets of those old hands, and that's, you get in there and you learn, and that's what you got to do. And did it for 15 years. Been doing these negotiations back and forth for 15 years.
But only because your union demanded it, right? I mean,
yep, yes, sir.
The CEOs of ExxonMobil, Rex Tillerson previously and the current one, et cetera, they don't come down and say, hey, here's a tray of goodies. Would you like some goodies? No.
No. Matter of fact, I told the story the other day. They used to give out, little gift cards for Christmas and Thanksgiving. Well, after about 3 years of being in the refinery, they came down with M&Ms one Thanksgiving and said, this is your turkey this year.
Your chocolate turkey.
Yeah. They kind of wean you off of it. Is what they
did you get any blue ones, or were they all brown ones?
They were all brown ones. Yellow and brown.
Yeah, right. Okay, but Pup, you had your own experience with the dangers of this job. Tell us about that. You got gassed. What does that mean?
Okay, so for those of people listening and watching, if you don't know what H2S is, you can look it up. You can Google it. It's hydrogen sulfide, and it's a very, very dangerous gas. At 100 parts per million, it could kill you. And I was putting in a overhead accumulator RV one night, and as I was going up there to delotto it, which is, put it back in service, there were some valves that wasn't holding, and ended up going completely unconscious. Went to the emergency room. Lucky to be alive. I'm like one of two maybe in the world that went through all that and actually made it. So being in this facility, it's not just me, it's everybody that works in our facility, whether union or non-union. We put our lives at risk every day, and to know that we put in so many hours in that facility and being locked out, that's just kind of like a punch in the stomach.
Well, it was a punch in your stomach, because one
it
of your
was.
supervisors said that he had known only one other person who was exposed to as much of that toxic gas as had hit you.
Yes, sir.
So again, that's why we have to have unions, but we have to have unions that have the power to negotiate in a fair way. In a collective bargaining way. Collective means together.
That's right.
And not just their power and their lawyers and their bankers versus isolated workers in their system, but people coming together. So ExxonMobil, I don't know. I don't know what their profits are. I had that somewhere in my assorted papers are here, but I mean, it's extraordinary that they would not. I mean, to me, just as a human being, extraordinary that they would not go all out to pay the little amounts of money it would cost them with the billions of dollars that they're generating every year. To make sure that all the safety standards, the best safety standards in the world. And by the way, there are other countries that ExxonMobil also operates in, and they don't seem to kill as many of their workers. That's kind of curious.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. Well, we got to team up on that. What are you drinking there, Pop?
Oh, I got a little Troubadour vodka and water.
Troubadour vodka. Troubadour.
Yeah. We're an old Troubadour. I got some good
yeah,
vodka.
right. Yes, you are. Okay, well let's talk a little. Let me bring in Rick Levy.
Okay.
Rick is the president of the Texas AFL-CIO, and Rick he was unfortunately not born a Texan.
No.
But he became one.
Not true. I was born in North Texas.
In North Texas.
St. Louis. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, and he's a dedicated fan of the St. Louis Cardinals, so which a lot of us Texans were back when they were the Southern team. There wasn't
They're
another
the
one.
only team you could get on the radio.
Right. So Rick Levy is a champion and has been a fighter for invigorating the labor movement so that it will have the gumption and the wherewithal to stand up to these, what I call the 6 Bs, the bosses, bankers, billionaires, big shots, bastards, and bullshitters, who are running roughshod over all of us at one level or another, including consumers, including farmers, and including workers across the board, union and non-union, including our communities, et cetera. They think they're the top dogs, and we're just a bunch of fire hydrants out here in America. Well, no. Levy is fighting to put labor back into that equation of collective bargaining. Rick, tell us, just for a little edification here, what is a lockout?
Okay.
We know about workers going on strike because they want higher wages or better benefits or whatever, but these are locked out.
Well, first of all, I got to say, if you're going to be on the air, you got to be fair, Jim. And I think you're being mean to Exxon. I mean,
please tell me, because I
their
don't.
profits for the first quarter were only $2.97 billion in the first quarter, and so I think you need to be a little bit more sympathetic to their plight.
So for three months they made how much?
$3 billion.
$3 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can see why they're short on money to be able to
exactly
to help these workers. Yeah.
So a lockout is basically, when you work for a living, basically you have one weapon, and that is to withhold your labor. That's your economic. That's called a strike. And when there's bargaining between the employer and the union, and you cut to an impasse, the employees can go on strike and withhold their labor until they get a deal that they like. A lockout is the reverse. A lockout is when the company says, we're not going to bargain with you anymore. We're through with you. You take our offer or leave it. But if you leave it, then we're going to shut the plant down and you're not going to work. And we'll see how long you like that. So basically, that's what Exxon is doing, is economic blackmail against the brothers and sisters that work there. And I just want to shout out to Nikki and Everett and Pup. You guys are heroes in our mind. Standing up to the corporation like that, not only for yourself, but for the entire community. I just want you to know, on behalf of the 240,000 members of the Texas AFL-CIO, you have our respect, and we have your back. So thank you all for standing up.
Indeed, and I think people all across the country can feel that way. And by the way, give us a buzz if you've had your own experience with the corporate rigging of the system against you, or if you've got relatives who have, or if you've got your own stories that you want to tell about here we are. We're available to you right now at the Chat and Chew Cafe with our happy hour roundtable here, and this is an unhappy topic, an unhappy abuse of ordinary workaday people, but it's also a happy thing because we have to know about it.
Okay, let me tell you this, Jim. Like you talked about some of the places you've been. In East Texas. That's where I first started living in Texas, was in East Texas. And the history of unions and populism in East Texas is a really strong one. And I think people overlook that at their peril. And one of the things that's so inspiring about what the steelworkers are doing in Beaumont is the same thing as the auto workers are doing in Marshall, Texas. Did you know about the strike that's going on in Marshall, Texas, where
there you go.
The United Auto Workers there have been on strike since March, where and when you talk to those workers, just like you talk to the folks in Beaumont, they understand it's not about them. It's about their families. It's about the folks that come after them. They are literally fighting for those jobs to be good jobs that support the community. Okay, we all owe them a debt of gratitude, because when they win, we all win. These guys out in Marshall, we're talking about, if we don't stand up now, these jobs will never be the same. And this company that has sustained our community for decades will be allowed to lowball and take the low road. And all that means is more profit for the company and less for us to live on. And so that fight that takes the shape of a fight between an employer and a union is really a fight between working people and corporations for how the spoils of this economy are going to be divided. We owe them a debt of gratitude. We really do.
Absolutely. And across the country, this is going on. We're talking about Beaumont, we're talking about Marshall, Texas, but this is going on all across America. In fact, the steel workers are in a big death row fight up in West Virginia with a corporation that the steel workers represent the workers in. It's a company called Beatrice. It's a plant there. It's been making pharmaceuticals up there since 1965. And now it has been bought by an outfit named something or other that I'm looking for right here, somewhere or other. This is going to come to me. This Mylan, Mylan. Mylan took over Pfizer's Upjohn division, two huge drug, big pharma outfits, and Mylan took over this plant in West Virginia. And then a month later, Mylan said, by the way, we'll be leaving. We're going to India. Goodbye and good luck. And in fact, they intend to leave next month.
Wow.
Not a lot of notice,
Yeah, right.
And there are not a lot of good paying union jobs in West Virginia.
That's right.
And so those families are going to have to take a poverty level job in West Virginia, or they've got to move from their families that have been there for generations. This is what we're talking about.
We see it all over Texas. I mean, you mentioned like Lubbock. I mean, Amarillo, for example. Yeah. The steelworkers went on strike in Amarillo against the SARCO. You try going on strike in Amarillo. Those are some tough folks. But I'll tell you what, the cool thing was when I went out there and I was on the line with those guys and women, and you wouldn't believe the people that drive by and give you a honk. It's out on a deserted road,
Right.
The pickup trucks are coming by, folks that you look at them and you'd say, oh, that's Trump or this, that, whatever. The level of support that the folks in these communities get it's so inspiring.
Right.
To be out there, the wind's blowing and the dust is all in your face and a big 18-wheeler comes by honking and you're like, that's what we're doing here in Amarillo, Texas, in Beaumont, Texas, in Marshall, Texas. I mean, it's like, it's really, there's some really cool people waging some really cool fights.
Exactly.
They don't want those fights. All they want to do is get paid fair and have a safe work environment.
Good grief, that's outrageous.
But that's
That-
what's being brought to them, and they're not backing down.
That's the American ideal, fairness.
Mm-hmm.
But and that's why those truckers honk. That's why those farmers give a thumb up to union workers. They might not be a union worker, but they might have had an uncle or a granddaddy who was a union member and made what their life is possible for them.
Yeah.
And again, we're all in this together. If workers are being run over in these chemical plants and et cetera, and then farmers are being run over by exactly the same power, then consumers are being run over, then environmentalists are being run over. So we got to get down to this notion that, well, as Jesse Jackson put it, we might not all have come over on the same boat, but we're in the same boat now.
That's it.
And that's a powerful political reality. And that politics, you mentioned Trump, but it crosses over into the Democratic Party too, because this Mylan Corporation that I'm mentioning in West Virginia, that's punting 2,000 jobs out of West Virginia, punting them off to India so that they can make another, $1 billion. Mylan Corporation was the CEO of Mylan Corporation was the daughter of Joe Manchin, the Democratic U.S. Senator from West Virginia. And she was also the one who jacked up the price on the EpiPen, which, a few years ago became notorious for that. She made $19 million personally last year. So she's not going to hurt no matter what. But then Joe Manchin opposed a lady nominated by Joe Biden to be head of the Food and Drug Administration that could stop stuff like this because of what happened. But because he was standing up for his daughter rather than standing up for 2,000 West Virginia workers who are losing their jobs to India. So, well, all right, Rick.
If you're trying to cheer me up, it's not working, Jim. I think you might want to take another tack, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's do that. Well, let's talk. Let's go to some of our callers who want to have comments here. Deanna, who are we talking to? Visit with us.
Hey, y'all. We have some really, I actually do have stuff to cheer you up, Rick. We have people, all kinds of union strong comments coming in from all over the country and actually all over North America. We got Canada representing over on YouTube. What up, eh? We our usual friends in southeastern Ohio and Columbus, Nebraska. John and Bob, y'all are here every episode. I love you. We've got Hawaii. We've got northern Michigan. Got Valentine, Texas, which Hightower has written about. We know about. And we know about the post office and what they do on Valentine's Day.
Yes.
So, and before I get to the question, I just wanted to remind folks to sign up for our email list.
Ooh, yes.
Our email list, where you can get an email from us every week, is hightowerlowdown.org/email.
And what do we do in that email?
We send you free things and amazing stuff. My screen is frozen, so I actually have no idea what's happening. I'm going to remove myself, but I'm going to ask you the question that was popped in is, why isn't the media covering this lockout here in Beaumont?
Bingo. This is a scandal, and it's the result of, by the way, the corporate conglomeration of the media in our country. Beto O'Rourke and I were in Beaumont, Texas, with these tremendous workers in a local story that had national impact, huge ethical impact. And where was the media? We had one TV camera came there. It was Fox News, believe it or not. because it was a guy who worked for Fox News and has worked for a long time, and he'd interviewed me before and he'd interviewed Beto before. So he came out. But otherwise, the local newspapers, no show. The other TV stations, not there. Nobody. Like, it's not news. It's in your own community. This massive story about fundamental American values playing out with workers like Nikki and Everett and Pup right there, and they don't care. So they're part of the problem. This conglomerated media is something that we have to battle. And the good news is people are doing it. There are true old, ink-stained journalists who have been fired or bought out, and they are setting up their own news networks, often online, but accessible to even those of us who think online is a clothesline or something. But nonetheless, there it is, and people are beginning to respond to this. So we have to create our own media. We can't just say, oh well, the media is horrible. It is horrible, but that doesn't do us any good. So we have to create our own media. That's part of what we're doing right here with the Hightower Chat and Chew every couple of weeks. Again, we try to take you out to some place and to some people who are kicking back, who are making a difference, and showing all of us what might be possible if we just team up and do it. So there's that. Do we have other Deanna information? Is Deanna plugged back in?
Deanna is plugged back in.
All
That
right.
was the weirdest.
Well, stuff happens,
Hey, on that media thing, Jim, one of the interesting things about that is it's not a neutral thing in a vacuum. Before the lockout happened, Exxon was running a disinformation campaign.
Yes.
And they were going to all the media. They were going to because I was over in the Capitol and I had state reps from that part of the state say, hey, what's going on? I hear that the steel workers are going on strike against Exxon to try and, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, that's not it. But, a very sophisticated media outreach. But I'll just give a little credit to both. And I'll tell you this. You're right. It's not just Democrats or it's not just Republicans. Joe Deshotel from Beaumont, the state rep there, he wrote a strong letter to Exxon and weighed in on the side of the working people, as did James White, the Republican from that area, who also was sympathetic to the plight of the workers there and reached out to find out what he could do to help. So, when you learn what's going on, you can figure out which side you're going to be on, which is why it gets to your point. That's why they don't want folks to learn what's going on.
Right, but we need to seize that opportunity. You're right, Rick. When there is the occasional Republican pop up and say, well, fairness ought to be fair. Well, then we need to get close to that person.
Yep.
And we need to bring our constituents close to that person, because the people in Beaumont, I know even today, we had a rally there. There were 300 people out on a Wednesday night in the dead of summer, with nobody running for office. I mean, it was not a political event. I'm not running for office. Beto O'Rourke wasn't running for office. But they turned out because they are angry and dismayed, really, that we can't come together in some way and have this notion of we're all in this together actually implemented. So that has to be our politics, it seems to me, and we need to find allies where we can. But I've got to say, we have to be insistent within our own party to stand forth with this. That we have to be the leaders. We can't expect, I think a lot of the Republicans who are voting badly. And really badly, that in their private moments and probably with their children, they're embarrassed, and we can embarrass them. There's nothing shameful about that. But more importantly, we got to find ways to bring them into a larger politics. That is the politics of Nikki and Everett and Pup. Let's call it Pup. Let's have a politics of Pup. Don't you think?
Yeah, we can do that.
What's your platform, Pup? Vodka for everybody? I'm voting.
Yeah, for everybody.
Yeah.
All right,
Right.
Troubadour.
Nobody left out.
Nobody left out. That's right.
Well, y'all are terrific. We've been running. We've been running. I'm sorry, Deanna. Do you have something to chip in here, or
Hi. I'm
No.
going to duck under the little bug there.
thing.
Yes.
Okay, there you are. All right.
A couple of folks wanted to know what's happening at the plant now. Did they hire scab workers? What's happening actually on site? And the other thing is just to reiterate, if folks want to help, specifically these workers, we've got a link scrolling across the bottom of the screen that'll actually take you to the Texas AFL-CIO fund where you can donate. And there are other ways to donate that I'll throw up on screen in a second. And if you want to help in your own community, there are lots of ways to always support union workers in your town and show up for them and support them in the struggle to keep their lives fair. So I'll pop out and you tell us what's happening out there.
Well, and that money that you might donate to that scroll beneath the screen here will go to Beaumont. It will go to Nikki, and it will go to her children and the people who are providing support for the little d democratic uplifting of working people in our society.
Let me just say this, Jim. Like when I think we've been trying to raise money for the folks. I think we've raised about $5,000 for the folks down there. But like what I say, when we've had a lot of disasters in Texas, and including things like this, which I think is a disaster. And
Of course it is.
what I say is that I would never wish that on anybody. But what I would wish on everybody is to be in a position like Nikki, like you are, and Pup and Everett, and to feel the solidarity of people paying attention to your struggle and contributing from all over the country. Why? Because you're in the same fight as them. And I know when we had the hurricane, people were pouring donations in from all over the world, to stand with us. And that feeling of solidarity, it's something I wish every person could experience, because it's really what keeps you going during the tough times. I don't know if you feel that way, Nikki and Pup, but that's the way it felt to me.
And the gratitude of the people that come in this pantry and only able to get just a few items for the
I
week.
know, isn't that something? I know.
So grateful
I know.
for just that
Yeah.
little bit.
I know.
It just brings me to tears to
I
know
know.
that they have to be grateful for
Exactly.
that much.
Yeah. Exactly.
Amazing what a little pack of Oreos can do.
Exactly.
Ah.
Those
Yep.
kids don't know any different.
That's the real America to me. Well, I was going to say something poignant and important in closing, but I think Rick said it, and I think Nikki said it. So that's it. Thank you all for joining us. We thank you, Rick and Pup and Nick and Everett, for of course being with us, but more importantly, for the great fight that we're making. This is what America is all about, and we will continue to try to bring these grassroots stories that the establishment media doesn't much want you to pay any attention to on a regular basis. So stay connected with us. We'll see you at the next happy hour here at the Chat and Chew Cafe.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Pup.
Thank you, sir.
I'll take care. We'll see you
Thank you
soon.
for everything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All
See y'all soon.